Today on the HR Department's Preventing People Problems podcast, we will be talking about your exit strategy. So whether or not you run a family business, or maybe you run a lifestyle business, or maybe you're building something bigger that you want to sell in the future. What are the people challenges that you need to overcome to be able to build a healthy business that's got value for you to sell? Hi everyone, and welcome to the HR Department's Preventing People Problems podcast. I'm Tracey Hudson, and with me I have two amazing HR professionals, Michaela Gartside and Sarah Bradley. Hello girls.
Hi guys.
How are you today?
Good, thank you.
Great, thank you. Yeah.
Good. Okay, so today we want to talk about exit. We want to talk about business owners and how they leave their business and how they have a healthy business that they can leave. It's got to be in a good position so they can either sell to someone for a good price, or their family inherit it maybe, but it's in a good condition so they feel like they can step back. Or maybe it's a lifestyle business and they just want to close it down, or whatever. Everyone's got their different ambitions about what they want to do with their business, right? So let's talk about that.
Great, let's get started.
So thinking about challenges that you guys see, because you're dealing with business owners all day, every day. That's all you do. You're the expert. So what kind of challenges are you seeing with business owners that maybe want to leave, but are struggling with it, or can't sell, or don't know what to do?
I think part of the problem often is people not knowing what to do or what might be possible. So clearly, I think the first important step is thinking about what your plan might be. And I think where we play a big part is in the team readiness. Have you got the right people in your organisation that allow you to start working on your business rather than in the business, which means over time the business operates without you and puts you in a good position that you've got something that's, if you want to sell, saleable, because actually there's longevity in it because you've reduced that dependency on you as the business owner.
Yeah, absolutely. So can we talk about teams with them working remotely now? Because sometimes it might feel, I know certainly we get the feedback that when people are working remotely, they just feel a little bit like they're not involved as much, especially when some people are based in the office and some people aren't. And this seems to be quite a common theme that we have with clients. So let's just pick up on hybrid working and what do business owners need to be doing to make sure that their teams feel included and that they're really on the bus in terms of where the business needs to be headed.
I think, like Michaela said, we're back to that phrase, on the business, not in the business.
Yeah.
And my experience of the smaller business managers are that they're working still in the business, and we need a real management structure, even in a small business, for the hybrid working to really work. So it's great working at home. I've worked hybridly for over 17 years, way before a certain pandemic arose.
Let's not talk about that.
Let's not talk about that. But you know, working at home just requires regular communication, focused one-to-ones. In terms of getting the business healthy and the people and the team ready, we need to be having training sessions, we need to be having business communications, we need to be letting people know what's happening. So working at home, hybrid working can work, but you can't just put somebody out to pasture. You've got to still check in on them. And we don't always see a true manager's role in a small business. And we really need that person that's looking after the team, helping the team, growing the team, and not just on the day-to-day tasks of the business. We need a real management role in the business.
And thinking about small business, so we've all been here, right? You start a business, you recruit staff, they report to you because that's just what they do. You don't think in a small business about recruiting a manager as such necessarily. That's not where you'd naturally go. No. So where do you start with that as a small business owner?
I think it's about being really clear about what you want roles to do. So if you want somebody to take responsibility for those people, It's about bringing people in with the right skills that they're going to be effective people managers, whether that's managing performance, whether it's training and developing staff, whether it's managing performance against sets of KPIs. I think you've just got to be really clear about what that role is going to deliver and the value it's going to add to your organisation.
So not just promoting the person who's best at the job.
Yeah, I think we've all been there.
That's a common mistake.
Absolutely. Whether in a small business or a large business, when we promote our best technical person, but they're never going to be a great people manager. So I think it is about getting clarity, but also then about understanding, isn't it? Why are you not promoting your best technical person, for example? Still rewarding them appropriately, recognising their contribution to the business, but actually also recognising where their skill set is.
Yeah.
I think Michaela mentioned the word value there, and that's something to pick up on, because we can get a little bit obsessed with return on investment when we're in smaller businesses. For good reasons, we get obsessed with it, but this kind of role will give a different value, but it won't be able to be measured in the same way. You won't get, fee earning money necessarily or income generating as much, because they've got to be allowed to focus time on looking after the team, nurturing the team, creating the healthy business for the future.
And I guess it's mindset for a business owner, isn't it? Because as business owners, we spend time doing the stuff we like doing, rather than the stuff that we need to do and that we're good at. So it's really being critical, I guess, and looking at yourself and thinking, okay, what am I good at? Where do my skills need to be? How do I replace those skills? Because the business has got to go on without you, right?
It's good to know, though, that not everybody's good at everything, and that we can recruit somebody that's better at certain skill sets. We've all got natural niches that we prefer to do, and there are several hats for every business, and one business owner can only wear them for so long. It can be done through outsourcing as well as internal. So if you're not the kind of business that wants to grow a huge team around you, get a coach in, get a business development person in, get a trainer in that can help share some of those skills around the team as well.
I think there's a bit as well, isn't there, as the business owner, not to be afraid to hire better than you. If you really want to step away, you want somebody that you're going to be able to trust to do a better job than you could do yourself. So in the hiring process, sometimes I think we see hesitation at hiring somebody who's going to be chomping at the business owner's heels, where in reality we do want somebody who's going to be chomping at the business owner's heels because they are capable of doing many of the activities. And we should really hire for that, because if you don't, there's always going to be a gap between what you could do as the business owner and what somebody is doing for you.
It's odd, isn't it? That you think you've got to be the best at all of it, and you can't possibly be. So why do we think that as business owners?
Yeah. Well, it's control, isn't it? It's about our own mindsets. We wouldn't be running our own businesses if we didn't believe we could be the best we could be.
Yeah. So can we talk family businesses for a second? Because I know we've had some incidents where the intention is that the family are going to inherit. And, mum or dad is building this business and working their whole life to build this business for the family to have. Sometimes the kids don't want it. But quite often we hear that the kids don't have the right skills. Now, that might be that it's parents being overly critical of their own children, but there seems to be a lot of complaining about they don't have the right skills, they're not ready yet. Well, how do you get them ready?
Again, an external coach would be really helpful in that situation, because you can lose maybe the focus. You can't see anything but your child in front of you, and getting somebody else in to work there. The other idea that I often come up with for clients that I have in the HR department, is there a similar industry in another town, and maybe that's not quite a competitor of yours, but could they go out on secondment somewhere for a while so that they experience another business? Because we often find that family have only ever worked in the family business, and it would be good to get them some other perspective. There are some really good joint training programs. A lot of the there are different organisations, corporates offer sessions where you can join as an SME to learn business skills and development. So it's about maybe giving them some different exposure so that they've got a broader horizon about their business understanding. Get them onto a really good peer group board that maybe meets monthly, and they're just picking up different experiences then.
That's loads of really good ideas. So basically, to summarise, external input is what we need.
I think there's also a piece about honesty, isn't there? So it's really difficult, isn't it, in a parent-child relationship, for either party to be completely honest and open.
Yeah.
And actually, we often see that failure rate when it transitions from parent to child, because it isn't what the child wants to do. It's not their passion. It's not what they want to spend the majority of their waking hours doing. And so I think it's about encouraging people to be really honest. And maybe that's where the independent piece comes in, that somebody else can tease out the real emotion if somebody really wants it. Or equally, if a parent doesn't feel a child is capable, but the child wants it, honesty about the skills gap.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it is that complete openness and transparency about what's the gaps in ambition, whether it's the parent or the child, particularly if you've got a team that are going to depend on the successor. It's got to be right for everybody.
And of course, you've got that team watching that successor, sometimes waiting for them to fail, or at least making judgments about how that's going to go.
And I think also sometimes you've got it the other way around, haven't you? You've got the successor in the business. They are more than capable and ready, but the business owners themselves aren't quite yet ready to give up. But everybody knows that's equally the right thing. So I think it is that whole piece around having a plan, but being very honest and open about the different stages of it, and almost what the criteria are to be successful.
So that's thinking about, kind of growing from within, which is great. Business owners have all got different ideas about how they want to grow and what that looks like. A big part of growth might be about acquiring other businesses. Yeah. So can we talk about that for a minute? Because that feels like, I know to business owners, when I'm talking to them, it feels really complex. It feels really overwhelming if you're going to go and buy another business to grow. What are your thoughts on that? What advice do you have to business owners who are thinking about, I might want to acquire a business, there's a team of people there, how's that going to work?
I think in the starting point, isn't it? It is around them understanding what it will bring to their business for the investment they're about to make. But I think when we often get involved, they've perhaps already made that decision in principle. I think where we often get involved is the importance of great due diligence, really understanding what you're about to acquire, what the liabilities are that you're about to acquire. Is what you see from the outside the reality on the inside?
It never is.
And we all know that we've been through due diligence processes where you do start to discover the skeleton in the cupboard.
Yeah.
And so I think it's about not being afraid to take your time in the due diligence process, to ask all of the questions that you need to do, whether those are commercial, whether they're about the people, the financials, but really give it a good scrub. Be absolutely certain that it is the right thing for you. And we've worked with a business in the past where they walked away from the deal because, having done good due diligence, the reality was the risks were probably far too great.
Yeah.
And then once we've done the due diligence and we're moving on to the people management, we really need to plan ahead. So as soon as we know that we're definitely going to acquire a business, whether it be share buyout or cheapy transfer, we need to plan our communications with the team who are moving to us and the team we already have. So we've got to communicate. And sometimes I've heard kind of business owners say, oh, cheapy regulations don't apply, I don't need to consult. But still, these are people and something's going to change. And when change is happening, people need communication.
So I know there's going to be people listening to this who are going to be driving in their cars, listening to this, going, what's she talking about? What's cheapy?
The transfer of undertakings and protection of employment. So what does it really mean, Sarah? When we acquire a business and we transfer the undertakings, the TU, the employment's protected. So if we acquire a team and we're transferring it to our own business, we need to be very mindful that we've got to be aware of the terms and conditions. We can't just go changing them easily after the transfer. It's not impossible at some point to change things, but we've got to keep in mind that everything's staying the same as we inherit it, at least for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
And we've got to communicate. So there are regulations about consultation. There's more onerous regulations if we've got a larger team. So we've got to be very mindful to tick the boxes. If we don't tick the boxes on all the regulations, it could cost us 13 weeks pay per employee with whom we failed to consult. So
everyone's always shocked at that, because sometimes it feels ridiculous doing a consultation when there really aren't any changes, especially when it's businesses that work closely together, right? Like in a group environment, where the group owns two limited companies and you're merging them together.
Yeah.
It seems like a bit of a weird sham process, but if you don't do it, you're right.
And you'll get them where there's a common director, and both companies know the common director, and on the face of it, it feels like one business already.
Yeah.
But we can't avoid the regulations. But done properly, it really does just mean talk to people. So we just let them know what's happening in a timely manner, in a little prescribed way. But it's costly if we forget to do it the right way.
And send the right letters.
Yeah.
I think also talking to people brings them on the journey with us, doesn't it? They start to understand the why we're doing it. They get behind the objective of doing it. And hopefully, in most cases, they understand that there are greater benefits to the whole organisation, whether you are the organisation who's receiving people or the people who are transferring in.
Yeah. But of course, people are going to feel vulnerable.
Yeah.
When you're merging two companies together, or one's being bought in by the other. And, you know, we're saying, I hear what you're saying, Sarah, everything's got to stay the same. But the reality is sometimes is that people's jobs are going to be vulnerable. You know, if you're merging two businesses together, you don't need two office managers. You don't, you know, for example. So in those sorts of situations, redundancies are possible, but you can't pick and choose, right?
Yeah. Again, back to process. So, yeah, you will find similar job roles where two organisations merge, and it's really important to get ahead of the game there and have a plan and decide what will happen with that. And we may find ourselves in a redundancy situation, hence why it's so important to communicate so people know what's coming down the road.
Yeah, and I know just working with business owners in these sorts of circumstances, the staff that are already there will feel safer because they know they're involved, and you know, and it's about being really clear with people that it's got to be a fair process.
I think the staff in the receiving organisation, as you've just said, often are quite surprised if you do enter then into a redundancy process that it could impact them as well, that they might be in the pool. There's often an element of surprise, which again, I think goes back to that whole piece around consultation early enough with all affected parties in both organisations is key, so that there's a completely transparent base on which people know what's going to happen. Yeah.
So talking to people is key. That's probably the theme on every HR topic anyway. So let's think about then actually what happens when somebody does take over. So whether, you know, you've got a business owner who's sold out to another company, or you've got, you know, a family have taken over. What other challenges have we got from a HR perspective in those sorts of quick growth or sale?
Inevitably, you're going to have changes in leadership style, different personalities, different characters, periods of adjustment, maybe new structures, different team dynamics. So I think it's about putting in place, again, the opportunities for people to get to know each other, to learn from each other. Sometimes maybe learning new processes, making sure we're getting the training right, so that we embed the organisations together as quickly as possible. And out of that, sometimes you take the best of both organisations and end up with better. If you're not careful, sometimes you don't take the best, or you don't even do anything, and you just end up with a very fragmented organisation. So I think it comes back to what Sarah was saying earlier of take time to plan.
Yeah. And business owners also quite often worry, especially if it's a small team and they know them really well, they've been running that business a long time. If they sell their business, they quite often will say, I just want my team to be looked after. I want my staff to be looked after. You can't really insist on how people are treated, but what can the business owner do before the sale to kind of make their team feel comfortable? how far in advance should they be talking to their team about selling? And I guess business owners worry about losing people, especially if they've been there a long time and always worked in a certain way. The thought for staff of, oh my God, we're being sold and we're going to have to go somewhere else or reporting to somebody else, that change can be really terrifying for people. So what advice would you have on business owners around that?
Yeah, it's just planning again, isn't it? And as soon as we know we're definitely going to sell or buy, we need to be starting the communications.
So wait for a definite. I know it's hard, isn't it? It's debatable.
I think maybe there isn't a one-size-fits-all answer to that question. Different teams, different dynamics, different businesses, different pressures at different times. I think there's that whole piece about making your decision about when the right time is to start the conversation. To address those risks of losing key talent before sale, you maybe need to look at putting additional incentives in place. You might need to look at involving them in the process.
Yeah.
I think there's also a piece, isn't there, around you satisfying yourself that if you have that mindset that you just want everybody to be okay, you have ultimately a selection process in who you sell to. Yeah. So again, it goes back to that due diligence. Due diligence isn't just a paper exercise of what am I inheriting or what am I sending over. It is an exercise of fit, culture, experience. Yes. So I don't think there is a one size fits all. Planning is key in every instance, but the plan will vary.
Yeah, it's common. I think you start off the thoughts about buying a business with money in mind, don't you? How much is this going to cost me? But it seems that it's quite rare that deals fall down on the basis of money. No. It's about, as you say, culture. Yeah. It's about people, what's going to happen to so-and-so, or buyer finds out you've got somebody really dodgy and annoying and they just don't want to take on.
And I think business owners learn a lot about the other business through the sale process. And we've all seen it, 11th hour, change of decision.
Yeah, if you don't think it's right, don't carry on because you'll feel it forever afterwards.
Yeah. Okay, so one thing that we haven't talked about yet is those business owners who don't have a team, but they want to sell their business. So when you don't have a team, but you need to sell and you don't want to be involved, where do you start? Sarah?
The only option to succeed doesn't have to be growth of a huge team.
Exactly.
There are plenty of small business owners out there that are lifestyle businesses that still successfully sell when the time comes. There can be a variety of different ways. Somebody might be in the marketplace and be willing to buy the entire business from you at that lucky moment in time. It's one option. The other option would be maybe towards the end where you know that the sale time or your exit time is coming closer, and that you hire in at that point, and you hire somebody that your purpose of hiring them is to take over the business. And that could be either as a buyout, so they could buy part of the business from you, or you can consider hiring somebody that will become the manager and you still stay in the background as the shareholder, the director. Retirement sales that come about where it's a lifestyle business, but any business this applies to. The incomer that's taking over the business doesn't have to give you all of the money straight away. You can work out a plan off the back of the retirement sale for the business to be bought out over a certain length of time. And we didn't talk about employer ownership trusts, which is another idea where you can gift almost the business to the employees, but it's not a true gift. You do get some money out of it. But we talked about all these people that want to feel that they're still part of the business if the business owner sells. Well, how better way than to make them the owners of the business for the future? So there's lots of options that don't necessarily involve the growth of a huge team. So for lifestyle business owners out there, you can plan other strategies. As I said, from a whole stock business sale to the perfect recruitment towards the exit time. They're two of the options that I'm aware of. I don't know if anybody else has got anything to add to that.
I think you've certainly covered it there, haven't you, Sarah? And I think, but the important thing is to think about what's right for you. So managing that exit in the right way for you. Doesn't matter whether you're a large organisation or a small organisation or a single person organisation. It's about getting your plan right. But that takes preparation. It's not a case of make the decision and it's going to happen next week. If you use your recruitment example, Sarah, then you need to be planning. What does it look like? What does that person look like? What skills do they have? What do they need to be able to do in order for me to bring them into the business and for this to be successful?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, both of you. That's been really valuable. Really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone for listening.